How do you have such a deep baritone voice?
All this really helps your voice in opening up.
So what is bhakti to you?
If something moves you, allow yourself to be moved
Right, yeah.
by it without really putting these constraints on you. Oh, is this Carnatic? Is this Ghazal? Is this Western?
Your message to young parents.
At this era where choice is glorified, it's important to not let the kids get away by saying, I don't feel like doing this.
Do you believe Manodharmam can be taught?
So how many phrases can I create like this in Todi? Vanigarini sama samada bagamani vanigarini sama. The mari takkane transposing gamakam laden verses.
They say it takes decades to gain mastery over music. But here is a 24-year-old who has already performed 700 concerts on the veena, composed his own varnams and tillanas, and won many hearts with his deep baritone voice. So how did he do it? When did he start? What did he practice? When did he fail? And what did he learn? Let's find out by getting up close with this ever-inspiring musician and fun friend, Ramana Balachandran. Welcome, Ramana, to
Thank
my
you.
first ever podcast. So actually, I didn't plan to do podcasts earlier, and it was a conversation with you that actually inspired this idea itself. So every time I talk to you, I actually go back home and practice for 2 hours. So that's how inspiring your journey is, and I really wanted to share it with the larger audience.
Thank you.
So today we're going to try and break down your journey, your process, success, failure, everything that made you who you are today. So I'm really looking forward to this. So let's start from the beginning. You often say that you did not choose music, but music chose you. So what was the first instance that you or your family actually realized this?
So I think my entry into music was through percussion, and I was told that I used to be banging on vessels when I was 2, 3, and kind of vibing to bhajans on the lap of my mom or dad. So that was my entry into music, and I think Layam was something that I was very naturally moved by and viscerally moved by at quite a young age. And so I was put under a Mridangam guru in Bangalore, where I grew up. And that happened for a few years. Then there was a break, and I resumed. So my entry into music was through Layam, but Veena was more like a very serendipitous thing that happened when I was 9. So my mother used to play Veena, and she had resumed Veena classes after a long while because she had an injury in her finger. And she had resumed her classes, Veena classes, with her guru, Nagalakshmi ma'am in Bangalore.
Okay.
And while she was practicing Sadhinchane, அந்த சரித அந்த அந்த இடத்துல வந்து I noticed that my mother was doing something wrong. She was doing one of the சரித and the glides. She was doing it wrong at that point, and I said, "You're doing it wrong," and she was surprised, and she said, "Hey, seri nee solre vaasichu kaami, like why don't you play it?"
Okay.
I used to only be able to play like Sarigama Padanisa flat, just because I knew the dots meant something.
Yeah.
So that's all I knew on the Veena. But I was able to kind of show her what the glide needs to sound like, and I showed her how to play it, kind of, roughly. So then she thought, okay, maybe this guy has something for the Veena. So she took me to her guru, Nagalakshmi ma'am, under whom I learnt for 3 years. And after that, it's been my appa with whom I've been learning. So that was my entry into music.
So do you think to achieve excellence in music, there needs to be that one obsessive parent who keeps pushing the child beyond their comfort zone?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for everyone, it's a different person. It can be a guru or a parent or a coach, like for instance, for athletes. There's this person that is like relentlessly pushing you and showing you where you are constantly and making sure that you have a very clear idea of what is to be done. I think that's been my father for me.
Okay.
And he would always tell me since my childhood to be inspired by, even people from other fields. Like he would give me the example of Sir Donald Knuth, who's known as the father of computer science. And he would say that even at like 80, right? And this is after he published some seminal work, like several books which have been used like the gold standard of algorithms and all that. That he would get up every day with an excitement to work on something new.
Were you ever afraid of your parents?
I'm still afraid of my father sometimes. No, I mean, not much, but it's so every time for me, there's this compass which constantly has to be calibrated when I have to take calls like, okay, do I hang out and chill now because or do I just stay home and practice or do something more productive? That call sometimes is a little ambiguous for me. And every time that ambiguity presents itself to me, I see like a flashing image of my father. So, but other than
always
that,
practice.
No, but he keeps saying he's never been this person who's been really the guy who enforces stuff.
Yeah.
He's given a lot of freedom to me, but at the same time he can get really pissed when I go astray, and I have many times misused the freedom and not made the best use of my time and all that. But other than that, I don't think I have any fear. I've had quite a really friendly and superb relationship with both my parents.
So, what would be your advice to young parents who see that spark, the musical spark in their child?
So, I'm not a parent, obviously, but I will try to put myself in the shoes of one. I think I would first think of facilitating the kid in a few ways, specific ways. One, listening, because music listening is cardinal, and there's so much growth and learning that happens through listening. And Carnatic music being an acquired taste, it cannot be. It's not as accessible as, say, a pop song, obviously, because of the oscillation content and all that. So listening, I think, is the first step to expose the kid to different styles of music and entertain a very unbiased view, being open to listening to everything, because there's so much to learn from everyone, even for us, more so for kids, because at that age there's invariably something to learn from everyone. So keeping the listening and appreciation very unbiased and open, I think, is very important. And also encouraging active listening. It's one thing to say this is nice. It's another to say, okay, why is it nice? Why does this sound better than that? What if the artist did this? Would it sound interesting? What's actually happening? What's the nitty-gritty happening here? How can I dissect this? Understanding the nuance at a deeper level, and facilitating guidance for that, facilitating conversations with like-minded kids. And that was a big blessing for me, for instance. Okay. I got to interact with a lot of musicians when I was much younger, and senior musicians very soon. So that engenders a lot of learning.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would definitely encourage parents to make use of those formative years of kids, because kids are like sponges at that age. So the level of grasping and the abilities that they have are literally supernatural, and it's only getting better with the current generation.
Correct.
Kids are much smarter than I ever was at that age.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
And and to be honest, I wish, when I look back at my childhood, I really wish I had done more. I have that bit of regret even today, even though I managed to catch up and managed to do something for myself. But there are many people who are not able to find the time at later stages, and I see that pain, in them, that I wish somebody had forced me a little more during that time. So that is a lot more painful than the pain that a child experiences, when we force them to practice. So I would definitely encourage parents to do that.
That's a very good point.
So let's talk about a very important aspect now, practice, right? So that's like the golden word for any art form or even a sport. So many of your followers have actually asked this question: what do you practice, or what did you practice back then? And what was your typical practice routine like?
So my practice then would be to first focus on the medium, which is my veena, and declog it basically. And there are many blocks as an instrumentalist, so you want to work on all those blocks. So I would do a lot of varicise, plucking practice, chittaswaram. So I would take one chittaswaram and go for 1 hour. So you start at like 90 BPM, 95, 100, and then slowly amp it up to like 140. Basically instrumental virtuosity related stuff, which are quite mechanical. It's just like brute force, drills. Now comes the aspect of musicality, where we do alapana, naraval, swaram, Kriti based practice. So here I think it really helps to put a lot of constraints to our practice and limit it to very specific tasks and target it as much as possible. For example, Aparama Bhakti. So let's say you want to keep Ma and maybe explore different ways to accent that Ma. Ma ga re ga ma ga re ga pa ma ga re ga ma ga re ga ma ba da ma ga re ga ma ba da ni ma Aparama Bhakti. Then maybe you want to do something which has, you can put more than one constraint also. It becomes harder. So let's say now you want to do Varjam. Basically Varjaming Pa and Sa.
Okay.
And then let's say you want to also end with something that repeats only twice rather than thrice. We are used to doing, everything 3 times. So, ni da ni ma da ni da ga da ni da ma ri ma da ma ga ri ma ga ri da ma ri ma ga ri ni da para ma bhakti. So, maybe now you want to do something which has like a lot of crazy directional movements, like sapada ma ga ri sapada ma ga sa ri pa da ni ri di sa pa ga ma ri ga sa ni da ma ri ga ma para ma bhakti. So all these are some simple examples of how you can play around with constraint based practice. The more constraints you practice for, you are basically widening the set of options that your muscle memory now has.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, I think that's a life lesson also, that those of us who have more constraints are forced to be creative to survive and get along. So the same happens with Manodharmam, because without those constraints, I think it is very difficult to even keep ourselves focused, and we go all over the place. But I think this forces us to stretch our creativity in certain pockets, which ultimately impacts the performance as well.
The other interesting thing which took time for me to understand is, and this is directly inspired by people like Ananta R. Krishnan, who's a legendary mridangist. So he used to tell me that even today, for someone that is of his stature and who can play like crazy stuff, speed wise, whatever it is, he used to tell me that even today he practices at speeds like 50, 60 BPM, which is like that. You would think that he's beyond this, or anyone is beyond this. And even today, I will have to practice no gamakam, nothing, just flat, and at a speed which most think that I'm beyond, or anyone of my level is beyond. But you need to do that practice even after, forever, to maintain that solidity in your fingers. So that's very important.
Right. So you said your first concert was at 12, right? So what was your state of mind? Do you remember any mess-ups, embarrassments?
I think I was quite oblivious to the seriousness of the whole thing at some level. Though there was like very dedicated practice for that concert and everything, I never rehearsed with my co-artists for my arangetram. And I was just like chilling, doing card tricks the previous night with them, and then had no idea about the gravity of the whole thing. But I had practiced my parts, but I was having a ball on stage, and it's the same thing even today. The first few minutes where you kind of get accustomed to the environment, the sound, all that, that's when there is a little bit of nervousness. And pre-concert, there is a certain tension inside that you want to get the content right. My tension even today, nervousness today is always on the lines of, okay, I hope I get good ideas in my alapana. I hope I will end up with good flow on stage. It's more on those lines. It's never that about the results of people's acknowledgement or whatever.
What about later in the journey? So any other embarrassing moments on stage?
Many. I am not sure how many I can remember, but I have humiliated myself musically many times, especially when like great artists are there in the audience. And see how much ever we practice inner work, I shouldn't say that. I have not practiced inner work enough to be absolutely free of anyone's presence in the audience yet. Though I'm getting better at it. Once I was playing Korappu in Mohanam, and then there was like I don't remember which artist it was. I ended up playing something like Rasikaranjani, like Sariga Padasa Sadavagari Sa is Monam, Sariga Padasa, all that came. Then Malay Marutam, everything. I was trying Kandanadai to make sure that I make a mark, and then I ended up going to Malaya Marutam like as slips.
Okay.
Like brief slips, but those brief
Nobody
slips.
knew that. You could have just played along.
No, but those brief slips, though they were so like short-lived, I was like, big pricks. And then recently something really funny happened. So I was playing a concert in Malaysia, and the previous day I had a workshop. And then in the workshop, some student asked me, how do I know where the Tani ends?
Okay.
Tani Avartanam ends. And because I know Mridangam, I said one option, if you don't know Mridangam, if you're not learned Mridangam, is to listen to Tani Avartanams and figure out where the Mora begins. Mora is like whatever. And then see what follows that. And whatever follows that, allow it to repeat thrice, and then you know that. This is the general rule. I said all this and I gave some examples and all that. It went well. Next day in my concert, Patri Satish Kumar sir, did something. He finished his Mora and he started a Korvai, and the progression of the Korvai was very interesting.
Okay.
And I was so smitten with that progression. I started processing. I started thinking, okay, is this 84? And then he's doing like 28, but shouldn't it be 26? And then he's like, you have to start the Pallavi. And then I didn't start the Pallavi. I just put Tadam, and then I started midway, and then I was like, wow, what a great example to for the students.
You actually jinxed yourself.
I did. I was like super embarrassing.
So did you ever get overconfident?
Kind of, at some point. I think there was this a subtle layer of complacency that had set in. I saw praise very early on. I started my career in music quite early on, and I should thank my parents for never allowing me to be too satisfied with myself. Always, giving a knock on my head and really keeping me quite grounded. But despite all that, humans. So I guess
teens.
It translated into some forms of suboptimal work ethic, suboptimal self-analysis, being a little too satisfied with myself. These were all like passing phases, but they were there. So those were probably moments where I was probably a little overconfident.
So has the opposite happened, where after a concert you felt your confidence is broken?
So there have been concerts for me where this has happened, where I've realized that I really suck at something.
Yeah.
And then that has really changed the way I've looked at things. See, the moments where on stage we realize we underestimated the amount of work or practice needed for something to go well. Those moments are very humbling. And you might have genuinely felt that, okay, I think I'm ready to pull this off on stage. Yeah. But then when you actually are on stage, and whatever it is, on stage there's this little bit extra intensity or consciousness. How much ever you try to simulate that at home and practice, there's this extra bit that comes there. In that situation, the way you respond, everything changes. So you might have genuinely felt that you can pull this off, and then when you go on stage and you realize, okay, I actually needed to have practiced a little more for this. Those moments are so embarrassing and humbling. So I've had many of those moments.
Have you ever received negative feedback from your audience?
Many times. Sometimes very scathing. And in fact, there was...
Anything constructive?
Yeah. So there was one moment, this one moment that comes... right off the bat, which is when one rasika of music, whom I didn't think of someone being able to actually execute stuff in music. He was just a listener. He had listened to music for a long time. And he just said after one of my concerts that there is no Vishranti, there's no repose in your music.
How would you describe repose and Vishranti in your music?
Repose is some amount of calmness in your exploration, where you dwell on notes, you dwell on moods. So that man's words actually really changed the way I look at my music. And wherever he is, thanks to him. But you have those very humbling moments through concerts. Yeah. It might be through criticism, it might be through just you messing up there. That's a huge teacher. Not only musically, but for life.
Yeah, that's very refreshing, because it is quite common for artists to think that, for somebody to criticize them, that person should be at a certain level in music.
Correct. That's
which I believe is not true.
Absolutely.
In fact, I have had people with no training in music tell me at times that, hey, today your performance was not up to the mark. And that would have been a day when I'm a little pitchy and I was not spot
I
on
relate to that,
the thing. So I think music has that power and ability to connect with people even without any formal training.
We might say something, hey, I did something very non-trivial and Kamboji, and I feel that this is not done much and this is special, and you might be thinking all that, but finally if it doesn't reach, if it doesn't land, that's it. That's the...
So I want to know some of your inspirations in music. So I'll tell you a word and you tell me who comes to mind. Okay. So Shruti Shuddham.
Rashid Khan Saab. I mean, I should include many others, but this is the one that pops up right away. So there was this Brindavani Sarang that I listened to before playing one of my Brindavani RTPs.
Okay.
There was this phrase he sang. So nija ma pa nija pa re ni re za So he came to Sa like this, and the moment he did that, I just like lost it.
The beauty in simplicity.
Yeah, it's just all these people, MSG Mama, Vilayat Khan Saab, so many people, Balamuli sir, I can go on. They'll do like the simplest set of notes, and then it'll just like hit you like a storm.
The next word, vocal aesthetics.
It's really hard to name one, but Balamuli sir, it's one of those musicians that you really feel like Ura avataram, right? I'm sure he would have worked a lot on his voice, but there's this aspect that you just born with. And andha madri consistency in like 3.5 octaves, with that level of gatram, fluidity, speed, shruti shuddham, enunciation la irukra perfection, that's just like crazy.
So do you think in Carnatic music there is a certain compromise to the aesthetics of the singing in the name of technical brilliance?
More than compromise, what I feel, this is up for discussion, but there are elements in Carnatic music which I think are uninviting for a lay listener. Someone who has no idea about Carnatic music. There are many elements in our music which are quite uninviting. Like the density of oscillation. I'm not saying oscillations are wrong. That's what make up Carnatic music, and there's so much nuance and beauty to it. But when we overdo it, like if I in Todi, you can do the same gamakam. There is this belief in some that when you do a lot more oscillations, you sound more chaste or you sound more traditional, where the overall music of it takes a hit, right? See, when you want more people to come to Carnatic music and listen to it, because there's so much beautiful richness and depth and sophistication to the system of music. If you want to ensure that there's going to be a larger reach, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that these are not overdone.
There are these two aspects of Carnatic music, right? One is the kanakku or the mathematical brilliance that there is, and the other is the hardcore emotional aspect, the raga bhavam and all of that. So are these two mutually exclusive, or who are the artists who have inspired you to meld both of them?
So there have been many masters who have shown us how beautifully melody and math can be melded, and that is one of my favorite topics also, because if you look at the work of people like Lalgudi sir, T.R. Subramaniam sir, Balamuli sir, there are so many beautiful examples. I can keep going on. One is a Karar Priya thing that T.R.S. Mama sings. It stuck to me because I listened to it as a kid. Nidamoru taramenum ninendidu maname. That part. So he would sing this swaram for that. Rigama pada bama, rigama pada nidapa, rigama pada nisa nidamoru tarame. See how beautifully he has embedded the nida as part of a Karara Priya phrase. Another example would be Balamali sir's Vatapila, first Swaram, 1964 concert, if I'm not wrong. He would do. So you have ஒன்றுமே கிடையாது. தாம்ங்கிற ஒரு சிம்பிள் ஜத்தியை இவ்வளோ அழகாக ராகத்தோட ஸ்வரப்படுத்துறது. That's basically it. I mean, finding these very interesting ragabhava laden versions of notating these jatis or patterns or core ways. One of my biggest inspirations for Kanakku has always been Abhishek Anna, and he is also one person who has really worked so much on this melding aspect, and that used to be really inspiring to me. And even if you look at Kanakku as an isolated pursuit, I think he's someone who has really taken it to a whole new level.
Who is your biggest inspiration for practice consistency?
I think the biggest inspiration for me, like a living example, is Ananta Anna. And Ananta R. Krishnan, the mridangist. The level of commitment and seriousness that he shows so consistently is really something that will rub off on anyone that spends some time with him. Because when we travel together, we would check in to a hotel, and then we obviously rest for a bit, and then right after that you would hear mridangam sounds coming from his room, and this constant lack of satisfaction, this search, the constant fire to keep moving on is something that I've learned a lot from him. You know, there was this concert in Coimbatore where we were doing our sound check, and then the concert got delayed by 30 minutes, and then we just had to spend time on stage. We were ready and the audience didn't come because it was raining.
Yeah.
And then literally the next second after the organizers said to us that, hey, you got to wait 30 minutes. It's like, oh, okay. The next moment he started his drills. It's not even like playing for fun.
Yeah.
I mean, playing for fun is absolutely necessary, and it's really beautiful to do that. But that commitment to structured practice is so much. And that used to be so inspiring to me.
Yeah, it's very inspiring to see this coming from a performing musician who has already achieved great heights.
Correct.
Because it's very easy to get complacent.
Correct.
It's very easy to think I know it all, and
Yeah.
So how do you manage your practice today? Being a live performer, how do you balance concerts and practice, and how do you make sure you're not stagnating and always progressing?
As much as it's important to sit for a dedicated period of time with your instrument or whatever, it's also important to make use of your time quite smartly, like during travel. Even like 15 minutes can do wonders, actually. And like you're waiting for a doctor's appointment. Basically making really even small pockets of time really potent is something very important.
Have you done it while somebody's talking to you and you're really bored?
Yes, I have. Like there are some people who, I'm sorry to say this, but if they start talking too much about themselves or go on like a soliloquy of their own, self-centered stuff, you lose interest, obviously.
Some Kanakku starts.
Kanakku mattum illa.
So one important aspect of any performing art is the stage presence, right? So who are some artists whom you cannot take your eyes off?
I've really loved seeing Mandarin Srinivas sir, and such a pleasant demeanor on stage. And you can see how childlike he is, even with his musical explorations and the way he converses with his co-artists. It's very innocent. There's a certain innocence to it. It's never, even if there is a challenge or mild competition between the co-artists, it's always like a very playful one. And this constant pleasantness that he had throughout the concert, he's one person that I've loved watching. Patri Satish Kumar sir. See, he is one person who I think has figured out this compartmentalization on stage. He can make sure and guarantee concert success. Even when you think he's going to lose control at some point, he's exploring something on the spot, trying something there. And even the verge of you thinking that he's going to lose control and go somewhere south, he will just like gloriously come back as though like, I got you. It's that kind of like a, and the way he kind of supports you throughout the performance.
Yeah.
That's one. And then the other person that I can probably mention as the greatest example of stage presence is Zakirji. As Anantana has written in one of his articles, he made it so personal. He made it look like, it felt like he was playing for you, even if you were part of a 2,000 member audience. And that is something really special. And to have that level of ease, that level of composure, there's this famous video of him where the mic stand is falling onto the tabla.
Okay.
And then he makes the motion of the mic falling onto the tabla part of the groove.
Okay.
So things like this. Is a really special person.
Is it safe to assume that stage presence is less about gimmickry and more about connections?
Absolutely. It has to be authentic. And whenever stage presence is made up, it I think
Shows.
even mars the musical experience of it. At least for me it does.
And if somebody were to get a feedback that, you need to improve your stage presence,
I've gotten
what
that.
do they do?
I've gotten that enough number of times. I still do. See, sometimes what happens is when I'm involved with the stuff that I'm playing, it's hard for me to keep. But some people do it naturally. Like my friend Kamalakiran, you put him in any situation on stage, be it with like the biggest artists possible, or put him in like the most precarious situation musically. He will just make it look like he's having a good time at home practicing with a smile in his face and trying things playfully. And that's something you're born with, I guess. So I'm not like that.
So when did you know that music was going to be your career? Usually this is quite a difficult and uncomfortable conversation at home, right? So was it an easy conversation?
For me, it was quite easy because I think both of my parents weren't against me having a career in music. Okay. So my father, the reason he homeschooled me was because he was in quite a dissonance with the education system as a whole. So he wanted me to have a richer life, learn things at my own pace, meet people, have more than just academics being the center of my life. So that I think made him quite open to having offbeat options. The question was more about whether I will have the stamina to sustain in music. Can I do like 5-6 hours of music a day without feeling anything? And then that was kind of the determining factor. Some point I felt I could, and then now I get to do much more than that. The attitude at home has always been that, okay, you're going to have food, you're going to have shelter, no one's going to let you starve. We're not going to starve. We're that privileged enough.
I think, as you said, if you have that safety net, at least temporarily, it is worth taking that chance.
Correct.
Right? There are people who don't have it.
Yes.
So it would be unfair to say everybody should follow their passion. But if you do have that safety net, might as well give it a shot.
Absolutely.
I also feel you had age on your side.
Absolutely.
I would again come back to that aspect that if this kind of a spark is noticed in a child, then absolutely we need to make use of those early years, because having this dilemma in class 12 is a luxury. You still have a few years to make mistakes, even to change your mind. But let's say you are at a 30 and you're facing the same dilemma, the equation changes.
Absolutely.
Responsibilities, everything comes into the picture. You're into reality. So I feel that this was something that really worked for you, the age factor as well. So I'm going to ask you a question on behalf of a lot of people watching here. So how do you have such a deep baritone voice? Did you always have it, or is it something you worked on?
It is something that I worked on, but I think this is something that we are largely born with. Like 70% of it, I think, is something you're born with, but you can definitely enhance it in some ways. So my motivation to get a deep voice was actually is very childish, but there was one concert in Kerala. See, one problem of entering the music field early on in your life is that sometimes people take you for granted just because you're young. So there was this mic sound engineer who basically shouted at me because I knew a thing or two about his job. So I said I want lows and then give me some high mids, and he was like pissed. He just shouted at me. So he was like, I've been doing this for 25 years, I know, or something like that. In fact, Satish Kumar sir was with me during the sound check, and then he was like, he saw him snap at me. And then he was like, dye your hair white, ma. so, so this getting a beard and a deep voice was part of this project of,
Being
being
taken
taken seriously. Right? So I used to play around and intimidate people with my deep voice. So I would go outside in Tiruvannamalai or wherever, and then generally I would ask directions for a place to which I know the route very well.
Okay.
And then so the moment you ask people like, அண்ணா அங்கே எங்கே போகணும், பிள்ளையார் கோவில் எப்படி போகணும், I was like, நேராக போ, ரைட் இடு, அப்புறம் லெஃப்ட் எடுத்துனா வந்துடும். The moment you go, அண்ணா பிள்ளையார் கோவில் எப்படி போகணும், சார் நீங்கள் So I used to play around with that a lot. And I've been largely empirical in this process. I cannot in any way say that I'm, an expert in this. Just because I have a decent voice and a good depth to it. Much of it has been just experimenting and then trial and error. So in fact, recently I found that subharmonic singing
Okay.
singing is similar to the Mongolian throat singing that you might have seen online. Actually really helped me perceive a difference in the harmonic content of my voice and the overall depth of it. I can try to demonstrate.
Yeah.
So it's that. So, and most of the depth is actually through figuring out ways to maximize resonance or whatever it is in your voice by changing the way you sculpt your mouth and deliver the tone outside. How do you engage more of your diaphragm? Just being interested in seeing what changes I can make physically from, the abdomen to the neck and to the nasal cavity, and changing the shape, the pressure and all that to trial and error, I think gives us a sense of what works best for our voice. And I think that's where at some level there's no right technique that's universal. It's quite idiosyncratic. Many of the musicians, be it Western or classical, they may or may not have what is considered the right technique by voice teachers. Like Madhuramani Iyer sir, for instance. I'm not sure whether his voice delivery technique will be considered the right way today, but there was so much melody to it and music to it. Like, so even the, enunciation of notes and everything, though it was so idiosyncratic, and people will say, why isn't he even saying sa? But who cares at that point? It's just such beautiful music.
Yeah.
And it's melded with their musicality so much that that's part of their music. Becomes part of their music. Even the way they accent the gamakams. Like, you'll do li. It's not ni. Right? But if you take off that from Manier sir, it's a big loss, I feel.
Yeah.
And there's a very peculiar tone that comes when he does that. Li, it has a certain resonance here. And we've been conditioned to enjoy that, and there's so much beauty to it.
So one question on behalf of my students who are teenage boys. So you must have had that typical voice break that happens around that age. So how do you deal with that? Any advice, any do's and don'ts? Because I see a lot of boys dropping out of the journey at that stage, and I would really want them to hear it from you.
Because voice is finally a muscle, right? So to keep that muscle flexible enough throughout that journey is important. So to keep singing and to not stop singing like usual is very important.
That's a big takeaway.
And to not strain yourself, because I've heard that straining yourself during that period can be quite disastrous sometimes, and you have to just be patient, and you will sound like crap during that period.
How long is that period typically?
For me it was, I think, 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
And you don't realize how awkward you sound until you're past that stage.
Right.
And I've heard people like Balamli sir, I think he gave the simplest of advices, like just keep singing at a pitch where you can, comfortably touch lower pa or higher pa, and don't think that you have to sing in this pitch while you are halfway through the process, or you feel like you're halfway through the process. You have to get to D, or else you won't have a masculine, manly enough voice.
Okay.
I think you just have to be aware or alive to all possibilities.
So do you train your voice every day?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the top 3 exercises you would suggest?
One is just sustaining notes is absolutely important. Sustaining on notes as stable as possible. And I think as Carnatic musicians, we need to do it more because we don't have that as part of our regimen usually. Like in the Hindustani music, I feel like they've made that part of their regimen for ages. So that is one. Then there are some voice drills which I think focus on more of the overall freedom anatomy wise, like overall looseness of muscles, opening up your head voice and all that, like lip drills, falsetto to chest register transition practice, all that. And then as a Carnatic musician, I think it's very important to practice musical drills like varisais because they also directly contribute to your quality of voice. And I've seen this with personal experience. And it's especially important to practice gamaka varisais.
Okay.
Like all this really helps your voice in opening up and having consistent tone throughout registers. Register transitions become so much easier if you do these things. Varnams at different speeds. All these are very important. Varnams, Chitaswarams, varisais. So I would, just these three things will take up a good 1.5 hours.
So let's dive a little deeper on the aspect of Manodharma. So it is often believed that Manodharma cannot be taught, and we are always told just keep listening and it will come automatically. So I think that leaves a lot of people a little intimidated, because if you are kind of a beginner or at an intermediate level and you listen to alapanas and neravals by the masters, it can initially be very intimidating more than inspiring. That is my opinion. So what do you feel? Do you believe Manodharmam can be taught, or is it something that just develops?
Definitely not something that has to be left to chance purely. And that perspective for me was kind of drilled down by my father. And there are a lot of systematic practices that you can do to hone your Manodharmam. One thing to see is whether I'm able to operate on a certain phrase and create variations from that phrase. For instance, it might be simple as adding a component mid-phrase. Suddenly it's a little non-trivial. You can do all these. So to be able to do this quickly, different kind of operation. We just looked at a very tiny bit of what operations can be. This is to add a small filler mid-phrase. So this is an operation. Now you focus on this and see how much you can juice out.
Yeah.
And then you take another operation, maybe add a prefix, maybe add a suffix, so many other things. Then you see, okay, can I sing this type of phrase? This type, na, ipo vandu take like one with a jumped gamakam.
Okay.
Like so how many phrases can I create like this in Todi? You take another type of phrase, then you say, okay, I'll take a region in Todi and then see how many phrases I can make of this kind in that region.
Okay.
Again, one type of constraint, so like self-inflicted constraints which help you kind of stretch yourself.
Yeah.
And then you see, okay, I want to do only Varjam. Like how many kinds of phrases can I generate within this region with Varjam? Can I generate fast phrases with short length? For all these, I'm just giving some examples right off the bat. So there's so many hundreds of things that you can do. So this kind of breaking it down to very targeted regions of practice. So that's where Manodharmam can be taught.
Yeah.
See, there is this aspect of each one has their own musicality which is molded by their sound. By sound, I mean their voice.
Yeah.
Says the voice's tone, the voice's movements which are natural to them. All that creates their own like X factor over time. And that, melding with the ideas, generating their own music is not taught. It has to come. You have to just sit with music, enjoy it, just let yourself loose.
Yeah.
All that. But these things, I think definitely they can be taught.
This aspect that you mentioned about taking a small phrase and doing variations over it. I also feel it boils down to focusing on that one phrase, because usually we tend to wander, right?
Yeah.
We get a really good idea,
Correct.
but we don't pursue it
Correct.
and we jump to something else.
Correct.
So I think especially for people who are in the learning stage,
Yeah.
it's very important to acknowledge your idea. So you may think it's lame because you
never
are at
lame.
an early...
No idea is lame. Correct. You're
so
right.
you kind of give it, that space,
Yeah.
you honor the idea and then take
Correct.
it forward to the next step. That's how you will actually
Absolutely.
develop. Yeah.
When my father used to say, okay, make it very targeted, do this, do that. I was like, oh, you're taking the soul out of this practice. You're not allowing me to breathe in music. All this rubbish.
I think it feels that way at that point, but going forward, it becomes part of muscle memory, and that's what we want, right?
Yeah.
So let's break it down a little further. So let's say I'm a student of music. I've learned about 5 to 6 varnams and kritis. So I want to take my first steps into Manodharmam. So what can I do first? What is the first thing I do today?
Well, I think honing our Swarajnanam is very important. And when I say Swarajnanam, it's the ability to notate any phrase to a large level of detail. The first step is to see, okay, what are the notes that comprise, what are the chromatic notes that comprise a certain gamakam? Sariga, abdina, nariya per, because they don't know that, they will sing something like Sariga with the wrong degree, right? So, first of all, on the level realization. Second is, okay, Sariga, if the ga is pronounced ga, but you're actually oscillating between re and ma, in the madri realizations. Then, okay, what are the microtonal frequencies that make up a gamakam? Like for instance, so there's a small oscillation at ma which does not go to Pratimadhimam. I feel that vibrato adds a little life to that phrase.
Yeah.
Instead of which is also nice. There's no right or wrong here.
Yeah.
But to be able to know the variations which are solely due to the microtonal differences. Like for instance, the phrase the difference between this and the previous one is the jantai is deeper in the first one. The ma is coming from ma rima. Second one Pama, Gama, then you can do Shuddha Sadharana Gandharam also, which is Ma, Gama, 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 versus Rima, Gama, all this. So to be able to sing the same phrase with all these variations, and first of all see them is important. And this will allow them to grasp any piece of music, especially in Carnatic music, very easily. And learning songs becomes easier. Learning sangatis quickly without having to repeat them many times becomes easier. Then doing varisais, I think it's really important. Make them as complex as possible. Starting as simple as it's surprising the amount of students that might be able to sing varnams and everything. But Samagari Nisa, if you give them a varisai, it'll be hard for them because it's just that they've not worked on this aspect of Swarajnanam. So the ability to transpose Samagari Nisa, Ripa Maga, Sarika, Dabama, Rigama, Nidaba, Gama, all this. Then make it very complex, like Gasarika, Nida, Magama, Rigama, Nizani, Pama, Gama, Pagama, Pasarisa, Dabada, all this. In varisais in ragams which are phraseology based.
Yeah.
Like Danyasi, Panigarini Sama, Samada Bagamani, Panigarini Sama. The Mari Takana transposing Gamakam laden varisais is all a very good bunch of exercises to do to improve your sense of swarams. I feel that's going to give you a peek into what it's like to create phrases on the fly.
So it's very interesting. From what you're saying, developing Manodharmam is not just about being creative. It's actually about sharpening your ears enough so that you can absorb the Manodharmam of the masters, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
Because the source of our learning itself is that. So it is something that is not going to be restricted to a classroom. So since the source of our learning itself is the great masters, we need to be at a position where we can listen to and absorb all of that content.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have an audience question next. So this question is from Sangeeta Narayanan Music. So how do you stay grounded and driven even after receiving superlative comments about your genius?
First of all, I'm no genius. Superlative comments, yes, we get that all the time. And it's just, one thing is to just see it very objectively. There's a person that is really moved by her music, and then they don't know how to convey that appreciation because they may or may not have the vocabulary to do so. So they just, emotionally appreciate and acknowledge how much they're moved by our music. And if you see it that way, it's a little easier to establish a certain distance between that and yourself. Also, being in Tiruvannamalai, I think, has really helped me because I keep coming across people who do their own thing so deeply and no one knows about them. No one gives a damn about them. They're just doing their thing quietly. My father used to tell me when I was much younger, when I was 12 or so, that if someone praises me, it's like poison. Just see it that way. It was required. That kind of a hard stance was required at that age because we were quite vulnerable. But whenever someone praises me today, I'm actually many times like this whole list of things that I suck at come. And then that was like, okay, so now I know that I was pretty decent. I know where I excel.
Yeah.
And it's good to be proud of ourselves also.
Of course.
Right? But the thing is, self-love and everything is quite misunderstood sometimes.
I think staying true to yourself at the end of it, that is important, because otherwise you start believing in a lie, something that you see from somebody else's perspective, and
Correct.
if you don't follow it up with that absolute truth of what you feel, I think you have to be very close to your conscience for that.
Yeah.
So now that we've spoken about the nitty-gritties and a lot of systematic aspects of practice and Manodharmam that are very important, let's talk about the other side of it, the qualitative or the emotional side of music. So obviously music is nothing without emotion.
Absolutely.
So how do you bring in that raw emotion or bhavam into your music?
I would love to keep a large part of my explorations in a way such that they have a strong correlation to some emotional appeal. So some direct evocative aspect. So be it a manodharmic exploration or a kriti or whatever it is, there should be some emotional response, first of all, for myself. And I think that will rub off on the listener. And while performing or practicing, there are a few modes of, doing it, modes of exploration. For example, there is a mode where we focus a lot on the nitty-gritty, actively process, ideate, tinker, mend things. There's a certain agenda. It's like this. You have these many roads in front of you. You choose which road and then you choose how to walk on it. Whether to go on a two-wheeler, car, whatever. So, and then there is this mode where there's no road. You lay the road as you walk. That form of let go, I think, is very special to aspire for. And as much as the nitty-gritty is involved, there's also a middle ground. It's not just like black and white. There might be a moment where I'm actively working on something right there on the spot and trying to process and come up with something. And then the next moment I can let go and then come back to it. So it's not just two modes between which we swap.
Yeah.
And there is basically a lot of shades. And part of this also involves practice, which allows you to increase the hit rate of ideas or the music that you produce when you let go. So at home, if we stretch ourselves in, say, these many directions, and I think it's good to stretch ourselves in as many directions as possible. So let's say you've practiced stretching yourself in X number of directions. Not only are you ensuring that at least a fraction of those X directions become available to you on stage, but you're also secretly opening some X plus delta, delta. And that delta will surprise you on stage. And those moments are very special, where when you let go, now you have these many options that you practiced that allows your muscle memory to choose from. And feeling to choose from, the raga to choose. The raga can also really drive, the raga bhavam can really drive a lot of the exploration. I think it should. And ours being primarily a raga music, any exploration, if it is centered around juicing out as much of the ragam content as possible. And that is very personal. I think everyone has their own definition of raga bhavam. So if I sing something in Neelambari, in male kala. Sani di ba magari gama ni di ba ba ri ri sani ba ma di ba magari gama da ba magari gama ga sa. So despite the fact that I'm trying to embed what is part of the usual Neelambari library of phrases, some people might feel I don't feel the raga's essence in this because I find Neelambari's soul to be mostly in a slower version of it. So this is where a little bit of subjectivity comes in. But generally, even the nitty-gritty stuff that we discussed about, if that is always driven by this foundation of, staying true to the raga's mood, the energies that different regions of the ragas create, that will be very interesting.
Have you experienced any, instances where an idea came out of nowhere
Absolutely,
and it surprised you on stage?
All the time. And in fact, those are the moments that I look forward to having in every concert. Those moments where you're surprised yourself and you feel how small you are in front of music. At that point, you don't even feel this high, that we created this or we discovered this. It's more like, whoa, music is so powerful.
I think it also feels like finally you're getting back something from the process,
Absolutely.
Because there is a very long period during which you don't know what's happening.
Correct.
What is the quality of my input? We have no idea. Yeah. And then finally when that idea comes out of the blue, when we didn't even realize we had it, that feels like, music is finally giving something back to us. Yeah. So when you're on stage, how do you keep yourself very spontaneous, especially in the presence of other artists?
Spontaneity also, it need not always be an interesting phrase that you haven't played ever. It can be a phrase that you've played hundreds of times, but that same phrase can feel so much fresher at a certain context. Or it can be even a simple note that you hold, which can give you that fresh experience. And there is a surrender aspect to this also, where you're being alive to all these possibilities, alive to all the energies that the music at that point brings. It can be even a pause that can be so pregnant, or it can be even a moment inspired, by the co-artist. And that's where I think the spirit of co-creation comes in. There are so many moments, because I am also a mridangist. I am someone that is viscerally moved by Layam. As I've said, I've cried to Tawil solos. I think anyone that relates deeply to Layam and rhythm, they would relate to this feeling. So because of that, there are so many moments in the concert where the mridangist does something, maybe like a groove, and that kind of sculpts my explorations after that. And it can be a direction that I pursue just because of that groove triggering something. Especially in Sarvalagu, this happens a lot, and it's a very thrilling feeling. So these are all moments where there is bhava of some sort. Bhava is not always just thinking of something and tearing up. It can be all these very potent moments.
I always have an additional layer of respect and awe for an instrumentalist who's able to take me to that zone, because with vocals, when we are singing, we have that support of our voice. There are certain dynamics in that itself which automatically conveys emotions.
Correct.
But with an instrument, I think it's absolutely brilliant how you convey your emotion to the audience.
Thank you. And the other thing I think is, though we have probably a richer soundscape to explore with, there is this additional anchor which is lyric in the voice. And voice is the closest to yourself. So that aspect, I think, makes it one of the best tools to convey emotion, as you're saying. But it's a challenge to figure out ways on our instrument. And people like percussionists, they have a completely different challenge. And many people, unfortunately, think that layam or rhythm or even percussion, mridangam, whatever it is not as emotional as melody. I get it. Melody is probably a little more global, but percussion is also the aspect of grooving is so much more global, I feel.
It makes you want to move.
Absolutely.
I think that is the emotion that it conveys. So I want to ask you about this central theme in Carnatic music, that is Bhakti. So I think this is something that binds all of us together. But Bhakti means different things to different people. So what is Bhakti to you, and how do you translate that into your music?
So I was someone who almost used to mock people who expressed devotion teared up at the name of a deity, devotion of that kind. And then now I'm someone that completely relates and resonates with it. And I don't know what happened. It was almost like an abrupt switch at some point. And the fact that a large part of the compositions or the repertoire that we use in Carnatic music today have been composed by people who lived very special lives. If you see the way Tyagaraja Swami lived or Muthuswami Dikshidhar lived. Why is it special? Because to be engrossed in something at that level and to forego and sacrifice so many of the comforts or desires that a normal average human being has and be so surrendered is something very special. And I'm someone that believes that there was a connection with something divine and something vast that they accessed. And because of all this and because of the predominant theme being surrender, devotion, whatever that is, I think it is a responsibility for us as a Carnatic musician to try and explore that direction when we learn a certain composition of that kind. That being said, do I think of Lord Rama when I play a Tyagaraja Swami Kirti all throughout the rendition? No. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Most of the time actually no. Okay. Because when you're playing, you want to say explore a bit of that ragam. That ragam maybe is inviting in a certain region and you want to explore a little bit of that. Maybe the nadam of the lyric plus tune together that has a certain sound that is so inspiring, you focus on that. So there are different syncs to our attention at any point while rendering a kriti itself. So I think we need not say that one has to always think of bhakti or completely resonate with that theme when rendering a song. I wouldn't say that. But to negate that out of existence, that theme out of existence, I don't think is necessary. And bhakti, if you loosen the definition a little bit, it can come in many more subtle and abstract forms. For instance, practice is bhakti, sadhana is bhakti. Maybe I'm so I can surrender to the notes of the ragam while playing an alapana, which is a non-lyrical section. While playing a tanam, I can surrender to the lime. I can be one with that. See, if you define bhakti to be some kind of shifting of focus away from your sense of identity, all these becomes forms of reverence, bhakti, whatever it is. But definitely, the more sensitive we are to more of these hues, our experience doing music, practicing music, performing music completely changes. And I think that's a very wholesome change that everyone should experience. I'm trying to in my own way.
I think this versatility of the word bhakti makes this art form itself much more inviting and much more inclusive to people
Absolutely. You
of
said that
different
well.
faiths.
Yeah.
So do you believe that the Carnatic music scene is a competitive space? How do you stand out? What according to you is unique about your music?
I think, it is competitive in some sense because everyone wants a USP, I guess, if you want to sustain in the field. And I think for me, I want to be probably primarily seen as a musician's musician, while balancing audience engagement. That's an ongoing thing. It's a work in progress. But it's a nice feeling to be appreciated by fellow musicians, if you know what I mean. Because if something that you do tickles their brain, it's a very satisfying thing. Because it's like a peer review of a mathematician validated by another by saying, oh, this is great work. On the instrument, first of all, because I'm a Vainika, I felt that there was a lot of scope for in the accuracy of playing itself when it comes to Gamaka Shuddham. And there are a lot of misconceptions about Veena playing. Like, Veena cannot accommodate speed, Kanak, Manodharmam, RTPs, cannot have complex phrases played on them in Alapana, cannot offer elaborate presentations of ragam, all this. And these are not stuff that I'm just making up to prove my point. I've actually had people and senior musicians tell me this. So that has really kind of fascinated me and got me working in those directions. And that's one. Basically to show that, okay, here is what the Veena can do, but this is also something the Veena can do, and this is something the Veena can do, and this together is something that the veena can offer, right? And also that part of that also involves exploring the veena as a sonic medium.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was driven by inspirations from other genres. I used to listen to a lot of Hindustani music. So that really got me exploring some of those techniques and all that. So veena as a sonic medium to evoke certain emotions. That's like an overarching thing that I would like to delve in also. In fact, one of my recent uploads was an experiment like that. I called it Kahuya Murphins. It's like a play on the word, an anagram of Shanmukha Priya. So it's just some swara patterns in Shanmukha Priya. I wouldn't even say swara patterns. It's just like some music using the scale of Shanmukha Priya as a base and then diverging a little bit.
Yeah.
So I love these experiments. So I would like to do a little bit of that also.
So I think there is a layer of taking in things unconditionally, right?
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
know what's going to help you when. So
Definitely.
that unconditional practice, especially with Manodharma,
Yeah.
it is very important because at least with compositions, we see that immediate result when we're able to sing something. But with Manodharma, you can only hope that, okay, something has gone in.
Correct.
And we don't know when, where it's going to come out.
Yeah. And it's very important to listen to music without just labeling it. Because it's unfortunate that there are some people who get too caught up with labels or things like Barneys and all that. To the extent that I've had people say that, oh, we don't listen to that music because it's not this Barney. Or also, sometimes we have the habit of, if we are not good at something, we will just call it a Barney.
Okay.
Right? So might as well just say, hey, I'm not good at it, I got to work at it. At it. You might say, in our style, we don't do these things. More like, I can't do these things. Right? So it's very important to listen to music unconditionally. Just if something moves you, allow yourself to be moved by it without really putting these constraints on you. Oh, is this Carnatic? Is this Ghazal? Is this Western?
Yeah.
If something moves you, just enjoy that moment of being like one with the music.
Who are some of your absolutely non-classical inspirations?
First one that comes to mind is Jacob Collier.
Okay.
Because I don't understand the technicality of what he does fully. I just know that he has done some groundbreaking work in harmony and all that, arrangements. And just his whole view on music is, I like to think of him as one of these Nada yogis who's just breathing music all the time. And his involvement, and you can see that the man is like, he accesses pure joy the moment he starts doing music.
Yeah.
And that to me is a very special thing. And he conveys that. And I've listened to a lot of ghazals, and their usage of voice has really inspired me. And then that has helped me improve my pitching.
Yeah. Also, they connect with the lyrics.
Yes. Yeah. And lyrics and tunes are so melded to each other.
Yeah.
You will rarely find, I believe, a tune which is incongruous to the lyric.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. In our music, though, Carnatic music, I'm not saying that it's the composer's fault. The versions of songs that we do today sometimes don't have that correlation. Sometimes the meaning and the tune will have absolutely no relations.
Right.
Like a sober song with a plea, we'll be singing like something like that, right?
Yeah. Maybe that's the Carnatic version of sarcasm. So next we have a question from V.O. Abhiram. What does constant improvement in Manodharmam actually look like? So I actually like this question because, when you're singing compositions, even if you are not perfect, it still sounds decent. You can manage to sound melodious and all of that. But Manodharmam is something where until you are up there, until you reach that mastery, it sounds very half-baked and even a little sloppy. So it's quite demotivating because of that. So what do you feel? How can we set milestones to recognize progress in Manodharmam?
Simple things might be, okay, am I able to sing 3 different alapanas, 5-minute alapanas in Todi, where I'm able to have reasonably non-repetitive ideas. It's impossible to be absolutely non-repetitive. That's there. But am I able to show variations of some kind where I myself I'm able to call out the differences between the 3 alapanas. Then the next question is, can I sustain an alapana for 10 minutes in Todi with a reasonable amount of density of ideas? Then even specific, can I sustain 5 minutes in one range? Can I sustain 3 minutes in one range with only one kind of idea? Then am I able to do Sarvalagu non-stop for 10 minutes? First thing is, am I able to just do it? Don't worry about being repetitive or anything. Am I able to just sustain that rhythm, that perfection in enunciation of the notes, pitching, gamaka shuddham in Sarvalagu for say 5 minutes? Then next you can say, okay, am I able to do Sarvalagu without Karvais for 1 minute? So you set these milestones for yourself and see if you can, that's why it's very important to have very short-term goals. And there are other things that you can have a very much shorter feedback cycle. So let's say you're giving yourself a week and then saying, I want to be able to do 1 avartanam or 2 avartanam swarams in Tishra Nadai for this kriti. And it can be one particular spot in a kriti. So the more specific it becomes, the more satisfied you feel, because the goal is more achievable. Right? It's never a long, steep step ahead. It's good to keep your goals very, the steps should be very gradual so that you have the satisfaction of completing those goals.
So when you perform compositions, do you add a lot of Manodharmam to it, or do you stick to your Patandharam, and where do you draw the line?
I think for everyone it's very good to fix a version solidly before rendering something on stage. And for some people that is preservation, which is, I'm going to present what my guru taught me as accurate as it can get, and I don't want to do anything more than that, which is fine, which is one school of thought. And the other is to say, okay, I have this version now. What can I do with it? How can I express myself in this? Where do I bring in my musicality in this? Where do I bring my raga ideas, basically? Assuming that you're someone who wants to get through this process, when adding sangatis, asking yourself, does this come in the way of the mood that the song establishes by the composer? Is this overkill? Is this too much of musical stuff embedded into this song? Is it coming in the way of the overall listening experience of the song? Then I feel if the composer has made a certain version, first of all, we have no idea about the veracity of compositional sangatis and whatever, because it's been documented by someone. We don't know that someone's capability, first of all. Then it has gone through so many iterations. Then there have been so many musicians who have sung that song and added their own variations to it. Though minor, major, we don't know. We don't know what the magnitude of those changes were. So to say that this is the right version of this song is a little far-fetched to me. So I feel if a sangati that you are adding to the song lets you connect with the song better and enrich the experience that you are having while singing that song or playing that song, or enrich the experience of the listener, or enriches the ragam flavor in it, basically there's more connection with the song established. I'm okay with it. And there are compositions where you won't feel like adding anything. And that's a very personal thing. It's different for anyone. And what I might consider complete will be incomplete for some other person. Like for instance, Saundararajam or Jambupate, the intrinsic skeleton itself is so powerful, and you don't feel like doing anything with it. Though I spent a lot of time with Saundararajam, and I like to play a version which is kind of redolent of the Hindustani influence that Sri Dikshitar had while composing it, which might rub the wrong side of many people. But I like to do it because I feel that the regalness of that composition comes out better for me. This is again a personal thing. I'm not saying that this is the way to get the regalness. It's already such a regal structure, but this is kind of, I think, enhancing that to my taste. That's it. So I basically do whatever I find musical for these songs. And it is very possible that it has happened many times that I would polish a song, and then when I listened to it 3 years later, I was like, why the hell did I add these like crazy sangatis it has no relationship with the the overall the ethos.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but it's a good lesson to learn because there are people who use this as an excuse to, over embellish or embellish mindlessly. It's, that mindful aspect has to be there as to why am I doing it? Is it adding value? Is it in sync with the sahityam? And is it doing justice? Would he have been happy if he were listening to us? Right? That visual has to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, next is another question by Tejaswini. This is an interesting one. What is a musical rule you secretly love breaking?
So this is something that I think I've done quite shamelessly, so I'm not really secretive about it. Like for instance, in Saranga, Samari Sapari Gamari Nida Mabadani Zari Badani Sani Dabamari Dadani Bamari Mari. So here, Rida Dani Bamari Mari Rizapa Mabadani Zagamabada Rida Dani Bamari Mari Rizapa Mabadani Zagamabada. So it's playing around with the energies that the Re and Da create as a pair. Re, sa, ni, sa, da, ba, re, ga, ma, re, sa, ni, sa, pa, ga, ma, ba, da. So all this, the choice of notes is largely driven by the sound that I hear while playing saranga on the veena. Like, so, like, pa, mari is generally something that vocalists might not go for because it sounds a little divergent. Like re ma re, re ga ma re sa is the usual one, right? So pa ma re ga ma re sa ni sa ti sa pa so re ma re ga ma ba da re da sa da ba ma. So these kind of phrases I just like to be a little naughty respectfully, which allow me to explore the ragam in those ways which I find interesting to myself.
So now that we have delved into Ramana the performer and Ramana the teenager, so now I want to talk a little about Ramana the guru or the teacher. So how would your students describe you?
Well, you should ask them, but I can well, I never snap at my students. I might not be very expressive. I think that's something that I've inherited from my father. Though I might not snap, and I'm not a really pleasant, smiley person. So that might be perceived as intimidating by some students. And I have had some students tell me that. And I would like to be very specific with my criticism and never say that, hey, you sound so awful or something like that. I think that's just bad teaching because I want the student to always feel that they can do it. So the other thing that I keep telling myself, and my father used to always tell me that, train your students to be better than you. So I always have that in mind. So though I might not share everything of about a particular topic while teaching that, because I want them to break their head also. And when they really face a problem, I would like to give it my all. And I think that's how people short circuit and music evolves. So for instance, like because I mentioned Ananta Anna, when we have those practice sessions, we would have a certain block in playing a certain phrase on the mridangam. And then because he spent hours on it, he would just do something like, hey, just tilt your fingers towards the black spot a little bit. And then suddenly the solo becomes easy. That tidbit is something that we really long for. And I've longed for it when I've spoken to musicians much senior to me. And so one might argue, but why are you spoon feeding that to them? Why don't they figure it out themselves? But I think this is how music grows. And we come up with shortcuts, we share it to our students. They will work at it. They will come up with their own shortcuts. And that's how people kind of improve fast and music evolves. So I
believe there is enough for people to break their head over even if you give them all shortcuts.
Correct. So
absolutely. There's really no reason to hold it within you. We are almost coming to an end. So let's conclude with some parting messages. So I'll give you a certain audience and you give me a quick message to them. Okay, so what is your message to young kids learning music?
Make time for practice irrespective of what your mind says. Keeping at least 2 hours irrespective of school, work or whatever. If you're serious about it, just don't think about it, whether you feel like it or not. Just keep some time.
Your message to young parents.
One thing that I feel is very important is that healthy amount of pushing. It's very unlikely that kids know the difference between what they want and what they need. And I feel at this era where choice is glorified,
Right.
it's important to not let the kids get away by saying, I don't feel like doing this. Because you can't afford that luxury at that age. You don't know stuff. You have not seen stuff. And I feel because of all that, some level of enforcing is required.
Your message to upcoming musicians.
Aside from having a good routine for practice and all that, I think that's the time to make mistakes. And being open to making mistakes. I'm not saying don't plan your concerts enough or anything. That's a different thing. But just being open to being really vulnerable, and this is the time you can afford to do that before all the rigidity sets in. Or, I mean, it'll be wonderful if it does not set in at all.
Yeah.
But there is this subconscious rigidity that will set in over time, I feel.
Especially as you get popular.
Correct. And I'm also young. I say this to myself also. Yeah. So being absolutely open when listening to music, and also being able to wear blinkers when listening to different musicians and not expect everything everywhere. Yeah. Because it's impossible for someone to be an absolutely complete musician, right? Everyone has some fortes. You want to listen to them for that primarily.
Yeah.
So being able to compartmentalize and enjoy everything, I think is very important.
Your message to organizers.
It's important to realize that the relationship between an artist and an organization is two-way. So we have to be thankful to the organization and the organizers for having us, for supporting music, for supporting that particular musician, all that. And it's, I think, equally important that the organization realizes that the reputation that they have is also due to the musicians that have performed there. So it's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is, it's good to train our ear to be able to discern musical nuances. And I feel if more organizers spend time doing that, it'll be wonderful.
Your message to rasikas.
I would say something similar for rasikas. I think it's as much as music is a passive indulgence for many rasikas. I think most of the audience that we have today don't come, with an intention to learn or, judge or anything, but they just come to have a good time, which is good, which is fine. But it'll be nice if they also spend time in learning a thing or two about the nuances of the thinking that goes behind. And also it's a responsibility for artists to put that content out. I haven't done it myself enough. I am trying to. So, because the more things that they recognize, there's the one aspect of appreciation of music is recognition, and then, saying, oh, that's nice. Yeah. But there's the other thing where you just feel it and then you just go. Both are important. So the former, I think, if people take up that, it'll be very interesting. And it'll be more satisfying for musicians also, because when you notice the nuances, even like one or two nuances that generally go unnoticed, if the listener is able to point it out the next time, it feels like you've done, like the mission is accomplished. You feel more satisfied.
Your message to teachers of music.
I think keeping in mind that mystification is something that we have to avoid as teachers as much as possible. Making things which are not abstract sound very abstract. Making it feel like it's too far away. Making the student feel comfortable and feel like everything is achievable.
So that was the end of today's conversation. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. And I think there were so many takeaways, so much for us to get inspired and learn. I'm sure I myself will be watching this many, many times over. So there is just so much that you have shared. And as you yourself pointed out, the demystification of your thoughts. I'm sure all your rasikas as well will, understand you a lot better through this conversation, and you have left no stone unturned in expressing what you feel. So I really, really appreciate
It's
that.
been lovely talking, and I'm happy that we got to discuss some of the topics that we did. And I think it's very necessary also that we talk about these things openly. So it's been lovely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Test 1, 2, 6.
Okay, now she's making me nervous. she's like the invigilator.
Did we close the loop on this properly, or should I say something? Wait, I was left. I'm going to make him cover everything here. So that he doesn't get any other interviews.
I know, I'm bad joke.
Please.
No, I was like, I'm already cool. Imagine we did this all and then Nishantana says, oh sorry, I forgot to roll.
Nadula, when you were talking, I was wondering about that actually. So if someone
Hi friends, I have a website.